Hi, everybody. Katlao Mohase here, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. There are other videos on the channel if you want to watch those, and do subscribe to this channel. So, thank you so much. This morning, I'm burdened to speak about something that a lot of people might term contentious and so forth. And I'm here to speak about the concept of a prison. And the only reason why I am using that is because this morning in prayer, I had the vision that there are certain elements, there are certain institutions that are being put in prison to be forgotten about by the world, or at least to not be as important, owing to certain circumstances, owing to where we are in the world, and so forth. We must remember, of course, that the world does not belong to God. The world is a system that belongs to the devil. The earth is the Lord's. People are God's creation. We become sons of God when we know and acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord over our lives. Now, I want to speak about two things that have been put in prison, and we must understand prison is also a place where the person that is incarcerated, or the person that is in there, is put in there, and life continues outside without them. Life grows, life flourishes without them. Yes, the purpose of prison is rehabilitation. They call it correctional centers here in South Africa. But at times, what ends up happening is the people outside of the prison develop coping mechanisms that now don't need the person that is in prison, because life has got to continue, life has got to move on. And the family unit, in my view, and having sought the Lord, the family unit and men are being put in prison. And they are being put in prison, and I will leave the family unit in terms of mother and father and children, and I'll speak about that another day. But I want to speak about men and manhood being put in prison. And it is being put in prison via violence that we see, via ungodly and unbiblical models of manhood that have taken over, via unkept and untempered aggression. Men are being put in prison, and women are continuing in the world without us. The family unit is disintegrating because men are being put in prison. Men have been put in prison as if to say that the role of a man in a family to lead it is actually also being questioned. And it is being questioned even in Christian circles, to say, what does this thing mean? And is it still relevant today? And so the man is being put in prison also by his own actions. He's being put in prison by the action of cheating on his spouse, on his wife, on his girlfriend, on the mother of his children. He's being put in prison by a reckless appetite for things that leads him down paths that actually cannot augur well for him, or even be linked to biblical manhood. He's being put in prison by an ambition that has not been tempered with contentedness. He's being put in prison, and so he is actually removed from the family unit under the guise of wanting to do well for his family, or under the guise of wanting to be quote unquote the man. And then he is being put out, and so the family unit continues without him. And so single parenting continues without him. And so the world moves on without him. And when he wants to come back, he is told that once an abuser, always an abuser. Once a cheat, always a cheat. Once the one who walked out, always the one who walks out. And I am here today really to speak to men that have made mistakes, to men that realize that they are in that prison, to say, get out. To say that the Bible tells us that he who the Son sets free is free indeed. But not only are they free indeed, we are free to follow a different model of manhood. A model of manhood that says, yes, you will die for your family, but you will live with your family. That yes, indeed, you will be an ambitious person to try and get the best for your family, but money will not have you. Your family will have you. That yes, indeed, you may have cheated before. You may have been an absolute person that dabbled in infidelity for a while, but faithfulness can be your portion. That it is possible to come out of the prison and that it is possible to join in the society. That fatherlessness does not have to be the place where you end. That just because you grew up without a father, it does not mean that your children have to grow up without a father. That it is possible for you to be the last one in your generation that has divorce going on. That it is possible for you to be the kind of man that steps out of the self-imposed prison, that steps out of the world-imposed prison and lives a life of abundance that God has for you as a man. That it is possible to get out of the prison and to live in the way that God ordained for you, to live in the way that God wants for you. And so today I'm really praying for men, and I'm really praying that men, we would discover the prisons that are holding us back, the prisons that are keeping us from integrating with society, the prisons of this animalistic violence that want to keep us away from society, away from leading in our homes, away from contributing to communities and being seen as trash and being trash. This is the time for us as men to be able to actually say that we're coming out of prison. We're coming out of the prisons of infidelity. We're coming out of the prisons of abuse. We're coming out of the prisons of fatherlessness. We're coming out of the prisons of greed. That we would become the men that God has intended for us to become. That we would lead the families that God has intended for us to lead. That we would step out of prison.